The news didn't break through headlines or official statements. It surfaced in fragments. A cancelled appearance here, a postponed meeting there, until one unsettling detail began to circulate quietly. A surgery that reportedly lasted 24 hours. No press release, no reassuring update, just a sudden vacuum where routine once existed. In Hollywood, silence around health is rarely accidental. According to multiple backstage accounts, Caitríona Balfe disappeared from public view without warning. Only days earlier, she had appeared composed and energetic, fulfilling commitments with no visible sign of concern. Then, almost overnight, schedules were altered and communications narrowed. Those closest to the situation described it as unexpected and serious, words that immediately raised alarm. What intensified concern wasn't just the length of the reported procedure, but how tightly information was controlled. Staff were instructed to redirect inquiries. Colleagues offered vague references to medical rest without elaboration. In an industry that thrives on constant updates, this level of restraint signaled that something significant was unfolding behind closed doors. As whispers spread, one name surfaced repeatedly: Sam Heughan. Not through announcements or social media posts, but through sightings that didn't align with his public schedule. He was reportedly seen arriving early and leaving late from a private medical facility, avoiding attention, avoiding cameras. The consistency of his presence became impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Those familiar with Hollywood protocol found the situation unusual. When health issues arise, teams often release controlled updates to calm speculation. This time, there was nothing. No reassurance, no denial, no framing. The absence of messaging created space for anxiety to grow, especially as word circulated that the procedure had extended far beyond what anyone expected. Behind the scenes, tension mounted. Crew members spoke of waiting rooms filled with quiet conversations and unanswered phones. The reported duration of the surgery, stretching through day and night, cast a long shadow. Long procedures don't automatically imply danger, but they do suggest complexity. That alone was enough to unsettle those accustomed to tightly managed narratives. What made the moment even more striking was Sam's continued presence throughout the ordeal. He wasn't photographed seeking attention or offering statements. He stayed out of sight, appearing only where he was needed. Observers noted that his involvement went beyond a courtesy visit. This wasn't a brief show of support, it was sustained, deliberate, and personal. The contrast between public silence and private urgency sharpened curiosity. Why keep everything so contained? Why allow speculation to spiral rather than offering clarity? Insiders suggested the decision was intentional, a choice to prioritize recovery over reassurance. In Hollywood, where every detail can become a headline, withholding information can be a form of protection. As hours reportedly turned into a full day, concern deepened. Those waiting were left with nothing but time and uncertainty. Updates, when they came at all, were minimal and indirect. The focus remained on privacy, reinforcing the idea that whatever was happening required space rather than scrutiny. By the time word began circulating that the surgery had concluded, relief was mixed with unanswered questions. There was no celebratory announcement, no confirmation of success. Just the gradual reappearance of calm among those who had been quietly worried. The crisis, whatever its nature, appeared to have passed, but the silence remained intact. What lingered after was the image of Sam staying close, unseen but constant. In an industry where support is often performative, his quiet presence stood out. It suggested a bond that didn't need validation or explanation. And as Caitríona remained out of the spotlight, recovering away from public view, that image became the story people couldn't stop thinking about. The first chapter of this ordeal ended without resolution, only a sense of cautious relief. A long surgery completed, a recovery underway, and a question hanging in the air, not about what happened in the operating room, but about the depth of the connection revealed by who chose to stay, silently, through it all. As Caitríona began her recovery away from public view, the atmosphere surrounding the situation shifted from fear to guarded reflection. No official updates arrived, yet those close to the production spoke of cautious optimism. The absence of dramatic statements suggested that the most critical phase had passed. In Hollywood terms, quiet recovery is often the best possible outcome. Throughout those early days, Sam Heughan remained a constant presence, even as attention elsewhere moved on. He didn't appear in interviews, didn't reference the situation online, and didn't allow his name to be attached to headlines. Instead, reports described him keeping to private spaces, coordinating logistics, and leaving only when necessary. That kind of involvement, invisible by design, spoke louder than any public declaration. For Caitríona Balfe, the recovery period was reportedly focused on rest and isolation rather than reassurance. Medical matters, especially prolonged procedures, often require both physical and emotional recalibration. Those around her described a deliberate effort to remove external pressure, limiting contact and information. The goal was healing, not narrative control. The continued silence raised questions, but it also revealed priorities. Studios are quick to intervene when rumors threaten a project, yet here, restraint prevailed. That suggested alignment between all parties involved, a shared understanding that health outweighed optics. In an industry notorious for exposure, choosing privacy was a statement in itself. Observers began revisiting the meaning of Sam's presence. This wasn't a promotional obligation or a symbolic gesture for fans. There were no cameras, no curated moments. His decision to stay close, unnoticed, suggested something rooted in responsibility rather than performance. It blurred the line between professional camaraderie and personal commitment. Hollywood relationships are often scrutinized through extremes, romance or indifference. What unfolded here fit neither. Instead, it reflected a depth that doesn't require labels. Shared history, mutual trust, and years of collaboration can create bonds that surface most clearly in moments of vulnerability. Support, in those moments, doesn't need explanation. As days passed, the lack of leaks became increasingly notable. Crew members, friends, and associates maintained discretion with unusual discipline. That level of collective silence rarely happens without respect for the situation's gravity. It indicated that those closest understood the seriousness and chose not to dilute it with speculation. When Caitríona was eventually reported to be stabilizing, relief spread quietly. Still, there was no rush to re-enter public life. Recovery is not an event, it's a process. The industry waited, and so did fans, forced to confront the reality that some chapters aren't meant for consumption. Sam's role during this period remained unchanged, present, unseen, and unacknowledged. He didn't attempt to reshape public perception or capitalize on sympathy. By staying out of view, he preserved the integrity of the moment. In doing so, he also challenged assumptions about visibility and care in celebrity culture. The situation left a lasting impression not because of what was revealed, but because of what wasn't. No dramatic confessions, no romantic framing, no forced conclusions. Just a serious medical event handled with dignity, and a connection demonstrated through action rather than words. As attention gradually shifted back to work and routine, the episode lingered in memory. It reminded audiences that behind long-running roles and carefully managed images are real people, facing real risks. And sometimes, the most telling truths emerge not in declarations, but in who chooses to stay when no one is watching. In the end, Caitríona's recovery marked more than the closing of a health scare. It quietly highlighted the depth of trust between two people long observed but rarely understood. The surgery ended after 24 hours, but the impression left behind may last far longer, a testament to presence, loyalty, and the power of silence in moments that truly matter.